Welcome again, Keepers of Light, and I call you that because you are just that, Keepers of Light. So it's been months since I've recorded, and I wanted to get back here again, to get back to the swing of things. I wanted to share with you some of the things that have occurred in the past few months to kind of close the gap between the last time that I posted and to this moment here that we all have arrived to. And the big picture of it is that I went I went on a very deep journey and a series of changes of perception about reality itself that I'm here to share about, because since you are here listening, then you likely, well, if not now, then eventually identify it as a keeper of light, which is what the foundation to this whole page, this whole channel has been about from the beginning. It has always been the call to keepers of light to come into a point of awakening at this period of time, because this is the period of time where we have come to not just awaken, but to live in a more lucid way than we ever have. And my job is really I call it a job, but it's not really a job. It is just a sharing, the experience of sharing what I have come to know, what I have come to remember. And you all probably heard this before, where everyone just kind of, throws out the terminology that, that life is about, like if you're kind of upgrading your perception, then you're really just remembering. And it may sound very cliche, but it's not. It's actually what it is that we all are up to. When you're kind of considering reality for what it is, we're at this period of time where there is such a differing of energies, and there's also more of a visibility to the level of existence of polarity which we are in, that can make the existence right now be very uncomfortable, to that point where even those who are light workers, even those who are keepers of light, and those who have incarnated for this particular experience of awakening to who you really are, that it can be very off-putting, and it can actually wind up making people want to walk away from the path. And so what I do is I help to demystify the process to make sense of how my journey is unfolding, so that you can see if there is a parallel and there is a resonance to that. Because when we're considering reality, we're considering that what we are all in is a particular architecture of reality. And what has happened in the past few months is that I've come to understand my own architecture, which is really to say that I've come to understand my own functionality to that level that creates a sense of empowerment. Because once you kind of are more understanding of how you function, not just from the outer realm of perception, because the outer realm of perception is what has been conditioned as understanding for humanity. And what is happening right now is that there is an upgrade to our level of being able to perceive ourselves, mostly, primarily at a individual basis. And of course, once you've learned something how you function at an individual basis, it then is more understandable how the collective itself operates. But the idea is that you who come here to listen to these words, you come because you are somehow resonant to the frequencies that are offered here. And there is a design to all of this, is what I'm saying. And by the time we're done, Like by the time we're done exploring all the different elements and features to the design that we are, and my job is really to kind of be able to not tell you what your design is, but to help you explore for yourself what your design is. And I use the word design because I want to take the languaging that we have been using when we're referring to our realities. I want to take it away from the stories that we've been telling about our reality. Not because the stories themselves aren't true, but that there is a deeper truth when we're looking at reality from a more neutral standpoint, a more deeper truth that is more common to all of us. And that is really what we're all really learning to do here. What we are learning to understand is that the reality that we're in is more alive. It is more alive because we are all living aspects and living pieces and aspects of the reality that is consistent of what would be considered earth living. And not only are we limited to not only are we not limited to the perception of earth living, there is also the possibility that you can expand your awareness so that now you are not just aware of the art reality that is unfolding through you, but also the realities that are available to you in terms of experience that lay outside the framework of what is considered earth living. So I don't even know kind of like how to proceed here. So because how I'm guided and what I'm understanding about my architecture is that things come together on their own. The more I try, the less likely it is that I'm able to connect to those particular frequencies that are available, because they are available within the context of looking at life from potentiality versus what has been perceived of through humanity up until now. So I would say just bear with me, because sometimes it does take me a little bit to be able to get into rhythm. And that's like a whole nother topic too, about rhythm. There's so many different things that my guides have been working with me these past few months. What I am finding is that there are upgrades happening within the human system. And I've said this before in other videos. And the idea is that we are receiving more frequencies right now that are helping us to see more clearly what it is that represents the veil, what it is that represents not seeing things as, not seeing through the distortions that have come before in terms of determining what our perceptions of life will be. And I think I kind of left from the time that I recorded the last few recordings that I did. I think I was really kind of hitting on how distorted reality is. And what we're finding is that there is less of a possibility for distortion to survive within the environment that we're in right now, because there's more of a call that is happening from the individual perspectives of human perspective, a call for more, just a call for more understanding, more clarity, more of a sense of self-empowerment, because the human experience wasn't designed for us to be feeling as disempowered as how many of us, the majority, I would say, of humanity has been experiencing life on Earth. And what you're here doing with me is just kind of like, we're just chilling, right? So what we're doing together is we're remembering all the parts and pieces that have been forgotten. And these are the pieces that we don't talk about, the pieces that schools don't necessarily point to. Like we've got children and we're out there, I've got children, I'm just talking about children in general, and they're out there learning, they're learning like the outer structure. it's like looking at a car and you're seeing like the paint. Like we're learning, what we're conditioned to learn about existence here is really like like the car's paint job. And what we're doing here is like we're gonna pick apart humanity as a whole, but not humanity as a whole by looking at humanity as a whole. That's just part of it. But looking more so at yourself and how you're designed and how you function from that internal perspective. Because without that viewpoint, without piecing together those parts that have been left out of the story of what humanity is and what humanity represents, and you are left without a sense of wholeness, of understanding of who you are. And that is why this whole process of awakening, when you're looking at spirituality, if you're really looking at a person who's coming from a deep understanding of it, they will always be saying to you that it is a process of remembering. It is not anything to do with learning anything new. It's not even about learning like new abilities or anything. It's always just about remembering more and more of who you are, which then equates to letting go of the distortions that we've been accustomed to living, because our nervous systems have been conditioned to respond to the input, the distorted input, in the ways that we've been reacting to, to what is presented to us like on a day-to-day basis. A thing that I want to touch on too, a topic I want to touch on too, is that the reason why I went on this sacred pause was because I had to integrate and anchor into the earth, which means I had to learn how to want to be here, I mean, I don't even know, like, if even the I'm not gonna say that. I had to learn how to body-wise want to be here, how to remember that my body wanted to be here in the first place, which is why we're all here. Like, we are all in the body, embodied vessels, embodied beings. Yet if we've got like our minds resisting being here because now the circumstances that are being presented to us are not working in conjunction with the idea of wanting to be here, whether it is that we're wanting more ease and we're wanting more joy, and we're not able to connect to our perspective about life that would create the experience of enjoyment or ease. At that point, there's like an argument happening within your system, an argument happening. I don't even know if argument is the right word, but there is like a disassociation happening between the two functions, which are important when it comes to the human experience. You've got the mental field, and then we've got also the emotional field, and we've got the physical field, and all of these, and the soul field. We've got all the different components of being human, yet we're only conditioned to really majority of the time be like in the mental field. So what you're going to find is that the information that I offer is really going to bring you out of the mind and bring you more into the feeling sense, because as life is really, if we're to look at the breakdown of life, and if I were to look at how I've always been saying how everything is energetic, what you will find eventually is that the understanding of life comes through feeling first, but then when we're in this reality, we're conditioned to believe that it's what we're seeing that is actually more of a perception of truth to the reality. It's not that eyesight and what we're seeing is not important. It's part of the process. But if you're looking at your eyesight or what you're seeing being like the forefront of what reality is, then you're missing the whole point. You're kind of missing the whole point, because now you completely left out the most basic and the most raw of data input material that life is. We are energetic beings, and so what we're coming back to is being more in awareness to that aspect of life, not the aspect that is, that is that we have been conditioned to believe is determining our life experiences, which is really, the beliefs that we have been, told to believe about ourselves, to believe about ourselves as being limited, to believe about our reality as being limited. Like all of that, we're going to set all that aside. And then once you start setting all that aside and you focus your attention to what it is that you're feeling, you will, see that emotions are really one of the that are more they're more of a prevalent factor to how to function with more empowerment within the reality itself, because you are no longer now allowing yourself to be scripted into a belief when you yourself now have the context to receive the information more directly. And that's what emotions were created for in the first place. That's why we have emotions in the first place. That's why we have perceptions of emotions in the first place, so that we can receive the data, we can receive the information that is behind that movement of energy that comes to us on a moment-to-moment basis, so that we can ride the waves of life and not feel as though we are being tossed about because we have now lost our focus to what it is that's actually propelling us forward, what it is that is propelling us backwards sometimes even. Well, the perception of that, it's the waves, and the waves are what we're learning how to ride right now. Of course, the mental field does have its place and process, and I guess maybe like there's so many things that I want to say that I feel as though like I'm trying to push forward a little bit too hard, so I'm going to just kind of slow down a little bit right now. I'm glad to be back, I missed you guys. Well, we meet on the astral, and I sense you all there, and sometimes I see that my journey is kind of like to kind of move along, like what it is like, it's like I move further ahead, but it's not really ahead because there really isn't any time in the first place, and that's like a whole nother topic. But it is the end topic to to everything that I really am saying here, is that it really is like the perception of time that does wind up reconfiguring and helping you to reorient yourself. And so I will be kind of working up to that particular conclusion in that way that you can receive the information, so that I'm not kind of like moving ahead too far ahead without building to it in that linear fashion that we are kind of conditioned to receiving information, which is why sometimes I kind of skip around but then come back again, because I loop back to I try and loop back around again, so that I'm kind of creating a complete picture. At least I try to, like, especially during like the post, I try to like kind of start with the concept and then at the end come back around again to kind of put everything together, because we are looking at how we've been conditioned, being one of the things that I have to take into account, that we're conditioned into that linear approach of receiving information. However, if you are here, there is probably more of like a multi-dimensional way in which you are now waking up to, or have already woken up to, receiving information. So even though I do try and speak in that linear fashion, what you will find is that the information is a little bit more ahead in terms of being more like at the conclusion of things, versus it being where we are when at a starting point. So I don't know if that really kind of made any sense, but oh well. Okay. So the last thing I want to just touch upon is that I've still been working on my website, and it's no longer a site. What I'm just laughing because I just kind of feel like some of the things that have been happening in my life they just seem so out there that it's almost like it's outrageously funny to me right now, because I'm kind of like, how am I supposed to put into words some of the stuff that I have internally been holding in terms of information? I've been translating frequencies, like just whole new frequencies. And one of the things that I was able to do is just to kind of like revamp my first version of the website. Because when I first started saying, I'm working on my website, there was like that version of it. But then in between, when I went through those sacred pause, it's like a whole new revamp of the site that I've been working on. And it's really kind of been, the best that I can say to you is that it is like the 3D anchored material to what keepers of light are here to receive. And the website itself is like it's a station of light. It is a hub. It is the 3D representation of where you can land wherever you're coming from whatever situation that you're in, from whatever walk of life that you're on. You can take a stop at the station of light, and there you're gonna find information that will kind of help reorient you. It'll help stabilize. It'll help anchor you. It will help you to be able to, for that moment in time, connect to those parts of yourself that likely have been hidden, to help you. It will help you to remember your functionality. It will help you to remember that right here, what we are up to is remembering that the reality that we're in is here to serve the purpose of our empowerment. It is here to serve the purpose of our enjoyment. And for it not to be is what we're right now remembering. For it not to be this in our lives right now is what we are now remembering. We're remembering that this is not the way things were designed to be. And I have posted about information about keepers and the roles that we all play as keepers of light. I'm primarily an architect, in that what I'm supposed to do is really come here and just share what the architecture of my beingness is. And not so that you copy my architecture or that you become my architecture, but that there are resonance factors to it, because my architecture is really a design of everything that I've been through this lifetime and this incarnation. I was here collecting information. I was here translating the energetics of what I came in here to share with you into these words, into this station of light, so that you could yourself, when you're landing, receive what it is that is resonant to your field. And your field is unique to you, and your field is what you are going to be remembering, not mine. It never was about me, this whole site. It never was about me, but it was about us, and it is about us, and it continues to be just that. And so I'm just gonna say thank you for tuning in, and thank you for bearing with me. What I'm finding is that I was never I'm not designed to perform. I'm not designed to show up in those distorted ways that many of us have found ourselves living. And I believe it's the same for you too. And I believe that it's the same for everybody. We're not designed to show up in the limiting ways that we have found ourselves to be in. And to be able to come to this point where I'm able to express these, I call them concepts and ideas. What I share is really like it's a map. It is not the territory. The territory is what you come here to learn how to live. This is what you are experiencing. That's the territory. What you're hearing from me are just different sorts of maps that you can use, different ways in which you can learn how to reperceive your own reality, different ways that will serve as being more empowering, not because I'm giving you power, but because you're remembering that the power was always in you, that you always had the ability to traverse this earth as a being who is the determining factor to its own experience versus what we have been told so far and what so many of us have come to believe. And I will leave it at that. And I thank you for being here, and I look forward to the next session that we have together. Until next time. Shotokoro ae shoko ae oro ae ku ae shuku ae wae 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 wae.